All right, so we're live streamed. We're on recording here. Shalom, I'm Brother Doug, as always, with my brother Dennis, our brother Joshua, my mom on the other side of the room here. So we're going to be continuing on here as we usually do. I noticed that my microphone was a little too loud last time, so I think what I'll do is I'll just lower the volume of my computer a little bit. That should fix the problem. Okay. All right. So let's go to my word software. All right. Torah portion, Deuteronomy chapters 4-6. Here we go. Deuteronomy 4. Now, Yasharal, hear the ordinances and the right rulings, all that I teach you this day, to do, that you may live and be multiplied, and that you may go in and inherit the land which Yahuwah, the Elohim of your fathers, gives you. Interesting. Little difference there. I'm going to write that down. That's a little weird difference there from the Unkelos there. It's he gives a first person like Masha is commanding them to do this one. It's actually Yahuwah commanding them to do this, so that's a little weird. So I'm going to make a little note of that. Deuteronomy 4:1. Hold on. Stupid pen. Come on, there we go. Deuteronomy 4:1. Kayla says, Anyway, moving on. Verse 2, you shall not add to the word which I command you, and you shall not take from it, to keep the commandments of Yahuwah our Elohim, all that I command you this day. So that's a reminder to us that if we're reading something that's adding to his law, we should not be considering it inspired, okay? If it's adding commandments which he did not command, okay? Verse 3, your eyes have seen all that Yahuwah our Elohim did in the case of Baal Peor. For every man that went after Baal Peor, Yahuwah your Elohim has utterly destroyed, okay, him from among you. But you that kept close to Yahuwah your Elohim are all alive today. Okay. All right. Interesting. There's no mention there in verse 4 of the Unkelos seems to lack that you kept close to Yahuwah your Elohim. Interesting that it lacks that verse, it lacks that phrase. Just making little notes here. Omitted. Okay. All right. All right. So moving on to verse 5. Behold, I have shown you ordinances and right rulings, as Yahuwah commanded me, so that you should do so in the land into which you go do inherit it. You shall keep and do them, for this is your wisdom and understanding before all nations, as many as shall hear all these ordinances, and they shall say, behold, this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what manner of nation is so great, which has Eluah so near to them, as Yahuwah your Eluah is in all things in whatsoever we may call upon him. Verse 8. And what manner of nation is so great, which has righteous ordinances and right rulings according to all this law, which I set before you this day? Sounds like his Torah is not a burden there. Sounds like it's something positive. Okay. All right. Take heed to yourself to keep your heart diligently. I like how the Septuagint there says diligently in verse 9 of chapter 4. Diligently. Okay. Forget not any of the things which your eyes have seen. Let them not depart from your heart all the days of your life, and you shall teach your sons and your sons' sons. Even the things that happened in the day which you stood before Yahuwah are Alua in Horeb in the day of the assembly, for Yahuwah said to me, gather the people to me and let them hear my words, and they may learn to fear me all the days which they have lived upon the earth, and they shall teach their sons. And you draw near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire up to heaven. There was darkness, blackness, and tempest. Okay. Tempest is just an old phrase for storm. Okay. And Yahuwah spoke to you out of the midst of the fire, a voice of words, which you have heard. You saw no likeness. Okay. Only you heard a voice. And he announced to you his covenant, which he commanded you to keep, and even the 10 words or sayings. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And Yahuwah commanded me at that time to teach you ordinances and right rulings, that you should do them on the land into which you go to inherit it. And take heed to your hearts, for you saw no similitude in the day in which Yahuwah spoke to you in Horeb, in the mountain of the midst of the fire. Lest you transgress and make to yourselves a carved image, any kind of figure, the likeness of male or female. So what's the context so far of making any type of likeness? It has to do with worship, because it just said you did not see a likeness of Yahuwah, right? So let's just keep the context there. The context is key when you're talking about do not make any statue or anything. Okay, you can take that way out of context, and then you're going to have problems in the Torah where Yahuwah told them to make statues of certain things. Okay, i.e. the bronze serpent, or even the menorah. The menorah technically of itself is a graven statue in a way. It's a representation of the what is it called in the book of Zechariah? What is it called? The olive branch, or it's called the candlesticks. So the likeness, he did command them to make a likeness of a candlestick. Just saying. So we have to be careful when reading commandments like that. Do not make a likeness of anything heaven above or beneath, anything in the waters and the earth. Not to take it to extreme literal. Obviously, the context is worship here. Okay. The likeness of any beast of those that are on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird which flies under heaven, and the likeness of any reptile which creeps on the earth, the likeness of any fish of those which are in the waters under the earth. Lest having looked up to the sky, the first heaven, the sky, and having seen the sun, the moon, and the stars. Notice how the Septuagint identifies what the stars are. All the heavenly bodies, okay, angels, you should go astray and worship them, and serve them, which Yahuwah your Elohim has distributed to all the nations under heaven. And after we read this chapter, I'm going to give you a cross-reference for that, where you get the context for what he's talking about, that he gave them to the Gentiles, okay? We'll do that after I finish this chapter. Okay. But Yahuwah took you and led you forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the iron furnace, out of Egypt, to be to him a people of inheritance as this day. And Yahuwah Elohim was angry with me for the things said by you, and swore that I should not go over this Jordan, and that I should not enter into the land which Yahuwah, your Elohim, has given you for inheritance. For I am to die in this land, and shall not pass over this Jordan, but you are to pass over and shall inherit this Tob land. Okay. Take heed to yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahuwah our Elohim, which he made with you, and you transgress and make to yourselves a graven image of anything concerning which Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you. For Yahuwah your Elohim is a consuming fire, a jealous Elohim. Again, the context is worship, okay? He doesn't want them to make molten mighty ones, which, by the way, you can find that cross-reference in Leviticus 26, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll go to that after we finish this chapter, show you the context there, okay? And when you shall have begotten sons, you shall have sons, and you shall have dwelt a long time on the land, and shall have transgressed and made a graven image of anything, and you shall have done wickedly before Yahuwah your Elohim to provoke him. I call heaven and earth this day to witness against you. Okay, so this gives us a clue why heaven and earth have not passed away yet, because you still have to have two witnesses for this law. Okay. And possibly why Yahusha says, till heaven and earth pass away. Okay. So the two witnesses of this Torah he's given them is heaven and earth. That you shall surely perish from off the land into which you go across Jordan to inherit there. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall be utterly cut off. And Yahuwah shall scatter you among all nations. And the Greek term there would be ethnos, ethnicities. Okay. You shall be left few in number among all the nations among which Yahuwah shall bring you. So now it's getting to like prophetic here. You could say almost like end times prophecy here. And you shall serve there other mighty ones, the works of hands of men, wood and stones, which cannot see, nor can they hear, nor eat, nor smell. And there you shall seek Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall find him whenever you seek him with all your heart and with all your spirit in your affliction. Notice how affliction is being used and is not referring to food. Notice that. It's talking about affliction spiritually. It's talking about you're afflicted and you're depressed, you're low, you're humbled by your physical affliction of being in another land, not your own, and being slaves and servants to another nation. Okay, so that's the context of the word affliction there. What I like about the Targum here is they paraphrase that verse in verse 29 to actually say, unto the fear of Yahuwah your Elohim, and be obedient to his word. And wow, okay, this is a lot different. Let me go to the beginning of this verse here. When you will be in trouble, and all these words will have founded you in the end of days. Whoa, okay, that's a little different. So that kind of gives you a little bit more context there when this is supposed to happen. Let me go there real quick. Verse 29 here. So it says, when you shall be in trouble, and these words will have found you in the end of days, and you will turn unto the fear of Yahuwah your Elohim, and be obedient to his word. You could say obedient to Yahusha there. Okay. So very interesting. The Unkalos paraphrases that. And I kind of like that paraphrase there, in my opinion. Verse 30. And all these things shall come upon you in the last days, and you shall turn to Yahuwah your Elohim and shall hearken to his voice. Okay. All right. Okay, because Yahuwah your Elohim is Elohim of pity or mercy. He will not forsake you nor destroy you. He will not forget the covenant of your fathers, which Yahuwah swore to them. Ask of the former days which were before you, from the day when Elohim created man upon the earth, in the beginning, at the one end of heaven to the other end of heaven, if there has happened anything like to this great event, if such a thing has been heard. If a nation have heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking out of the midst of the fire. Hold on. Because who spoke out of the fire? The angel of Yahuwah in Exodus 3:4, right? Well, according to Masha here, he's saying that the voice of the living Elohim was speaking out of the burning bush. That's pretty interesting to me. As you have heard and have lived, and by the way, that's Exodus 3:2-4, if you want to check that out, crossing that with Deuteronomy 4:33. Okay. All right. And then let's see, the Unkelos has a little bit more here. It says here, if anyone has seen like the miracles which Yahuwah has worked in being revealed to redeem himself, so this Targum Unkelos version of verse 33, to himself a people from among a people by miracles, signs, wonders, and with war, and by a mighty hand, the right hand of Yahuwah, an uplifted arm, and by grand visions, according to all that Yahuwah your Elohim has done for you in Mitzrayim before your eyes. If Elohim has essayed to go and take to himself a nation out of the midst of another nation with trial, with signs, and with wonders, and with war, and with a mighty hand and a high arm, and with great signs, according to all the things which Yahuwah your Elohim did in Egypt in your sight, so that you should know that Yahuwah your Elohim, he is Eluah. There is none besides him. His voice was made audible from heaven to instruct you, and he showed you upon the earth. Now, Mom, the word audible, does that mean loud? Like, what does audible
It
actually mean?
means spoken, actually spoken,
like physically spoken.
You're right.
Okay, all right. So, because I know some people, a lot of times they'll look at other places in scriptures and assume all the times Yahuwah just have a soft little voice to point us places.
No, it means
so
spoken.
Okay, all right. I just kind of wanted to get the idea of what audible means. Okay, So it was physically, literally spoken where they heard it out loud. Okay, all right. From heaven to instruct you, and he showed you upon the earth his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of fire. Because he loved your fathers, he also chose you, their seed after them, and brought you himself with his great strength out of Egypt, to destroy nations greater and stronger than you before your face, to bring you in, to give you their land to inherit, as you had has it this day. And you shall know this day, and shall consider in your heart that Yahuwah your Elohim, he is Elohim in heaven above and on the earth beneath, and there is none but he. And keep ye his commandments and his ordinances, all that I command you this day, that it may be well with you, with your sons after you, that you may be long lived upon the earth, which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you forever. Then Moshe separated 3 cities beyond the Jordan on the east, that the slayer might flee there, who should have slain his neighbor unintentionally and should not have hated him in times past. He shall flee to one of the cities and live. Now that's interesting. He has not hated him in times past. That's almost a reference to Matthew, where Yahushua says, what is it, Mom? In the Beatitudes, it talks about if you hate your brother in your heart, you've committed murder.
Right. I think it may be right after the Beatitudes, yes.
So I find it interesting in Deuteronomy 4:42, it says that he unintentionally killed his brother and did not hate him in times past. Did not hate him. I'm going to make a little note of that. 43. Bosor in the wilderness. By the way, Bosor is Edom. Just to let you know, it's like another word for Edom. In the plain country of Reuben and Ramoth and Gilead belonging to Gad, and Golan and Bashan belonging to Manasseh. Interesting. This is the law which Moshe set before the children of Yashrael. These are the witnesses and the ordinances and the right rulings which Moshe spoke to the sons of Yashrael when they came out of the land of Egypt. On the other side of the Jordan, in the valley near the house of Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Eshban, whom Moshe and the sons of Yashrael smote when they came out of the land of Egypt. And they inherited this land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, 2 kings of the Amorites. Okay. All right.
What's that?
See here, 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond Jordan eastward. Okay, from Aroer, which is on the border of the brook Arnon, even to Mount Sion, which is Hermon, or Hermon, I think it's supposed to say. Interesting, Mount Hermon.
Mhm.
So that's where, according to Enoch, that's where the B'nai Elohim in Genesis 6 descended down to. So I kind of find that interesting that these giants are in Hermon. Just a little interesting tidbit there. Verse 49, all Arabia beyond Jordan, eastward under Ashdoth hewn in the rock. Okay. Now let's go to the next chapter, chapter 5. And Moshe called all Yashrael. Oh, hold on. Before we start, actually, I have some notes I want to go to. I want to show you guys the context of Deuteronomy 4:19 really quick. Show you Deuteronomy 32:8 in the Septuagint seems to give the context of what this is referring to. Okay, with that he gave the host of heaven to the Gentiles. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, Deuteronomy 32:8 in the Septuagint says, when the Most High divided the nations, talking about the Tower of Babel event, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the nations according to the number of the angels of Elohim. Okay, so basically, those nations that said, no, I don't want to worship you, I want to worship Nimrod, I want to go build this tower. Who was like, all right, you don't want me, I'm going to give you principalities for you to worship. You don't want to worship me, you don't want to choose me, I'm not going to force you. Go ahead and be in a reprobate mind. That's kind of how I see it. That's what actually happened. Okay, he gave them into a reprobate mind to serve the host of heaven. Okay. Anyway, so I just wanted to link that up just to explain to people what Deuteronomy 4:19 is referring to. Okay. Anyway, so we're gonna move on here to chapter 5. All right. And Moshe called all Yashrael and said to them, hear Yashrael, the ordinance and the right rulings, all that I speak in your ears this day, you shall learn them and observe to do them. Yahuwah your Elohim made a covenant with you in Horeb. Yahuwah did not make this covenant with your fathers, but with you. You are all here alive this day. Yahuwah spoke to you face to face in the mountain out of the midst of the fire. And I stood between Yahuwah and you at that time. Okay. To report to you the words of Yahuwah, because you were afraid before the fire. Okay. And you went not up to the mountain. And I am Yahuwah your Elohim who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other mighty ones before my face. You shall not make to yourself an image nor likeness of anything. Notice before he talks about making an image or likeness of anything, what's the context? You shall have no other Elohim. Okay? of anything, whether things are in heaven above, whether in the earth beneath, what are in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor shall you serve them. For I am Yahuwah your Elohim, a jealous Elohim, visiting the sins of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation to them that hate me, and doing mercifully to thousands of them that love me and that keep my commandments. So what's the definition, Yahuwah's definition of loving him here? That keep his commandments. Okay, that's what he defines as love. You shall not take the name of Yahuwah your Elohim in vain, or if you look at the Hebrew there for vain, it would be bring to nothing. Okay, for Yahuwah your Elohim will certainly not acquit him that takes his name in vain or brings it to nothing. So basically, and I've seen this argument with people a lot out there is, oh, well, calling him Lord is not doing that. Yeah, it is, because you're bringing it to uselessness. And that's what the Hebrew of vain is. It means completely no different. It's generic. You've brought it to a genericness. You've brought it to it's not even esteemed anymore. It's a mere title. That literally is bringing it to nothing. Okay. Same thing with Adonai. Same thing with God. Same thing, so on and so forth. Okay. Keep the Sabbath day to set it apart as Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you shall work, you shall do all your works. But on the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahuwah, you shall not do it. You shall do in it no work, you and your son and your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your ox, your donkey, all your cattle and the strangers that sojourns in the midst of you, that your manservant may rest, and your maid and your ox as well as you. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Yahuwah your Elohim brought you out of there with a mighty hand, which is obviously referring to Yahusha there. Okay. And a high arm. Therefore, Yahuwah appointed you to keep the Sabbath day and to set it apart. And another thing to note, I noticed like a lot of Christians will use that verse and say, see, he only gave it to Israel. And I would agree with them. Yeah, he only gave it to Israel. Guess who his people are? Guess who he chose to be his people? So if you want to say his commandments are not for you, they're not given to you, that means you don't worship the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob then. So you might want to really consider where your heart's at, if that's what you're going to say.
The whole problem is not understanding that you are Israel.
Yeah.
That is the whole concept.
Yeah.
That
Well, and it's Mom, it's the human nature. We want our cake and eat it too, right?
Oh yes, of course.
So oh yeah, we love the salvation part of it, but our flesh don't like the part about it that we have to take on Hebraic culture.
Right.
That we got to wear tzitzis, that we got to do this and do that, and that we got to become a black sheep to society.
Right.
And look differently than them even on the outside, and don't appear like them. Okay, that's the problem. That's what I see is a heart problem with people that are revealed this to them. Not everyone this is revealed to, but the majority of people that claim to believe in the Bible that you reveal this to, the knee-jerk reaction is it was only given to Israel. And I would be like, exactly. If you're not Israel, you're a Gentile. And a Gentile does not mean non-Judean. Okay, if you look at the biblical definition of a Gentile, you are a pagan.
Right.
Okay? You are not a believer in Messiah. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to claim to be a Gentile, then you do not have salvation. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
And because a Gentile is someone out of covenant from the Almighty. That's literally the biblical definition. Not what we think it means, what the Bible says it means. So when you, and we were talking about this other night off the record, you speak barakas and curses on yourself. You start saying, I don't want to be Israel. I don't want to be Israel. All right. Just be careful what you say and you want, because that, we can sometimes speak things into existence and don't even realize it. Okay. So anyway, enough of my tangent there, but I wanted to put it out there. You might want to reconsider saying that about the Sabbath and the other commandments. Well, they were only given to Israel. Yeah, they were only given to Israel because he has one people. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Joshua.
Just for those that are watching or going to be watching, can you expound a little bit more on Yahudi versus Gentile and what Paul means by that there is no more difference between Yahudi and Gentile?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think you're referring to, what is it, Mom? Chapter
Romans
3?
chapter
No, it's chapter 3 in Galatians.
Oh, okay.
There's no more Judean or Gentile,
Right.
free nor bond,
Right.
male and female.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's not being literal. Okay, what are we not male and female anymore? But we're androgynous now?
Right.
I mean, if we start taking stuff to the extreme literal, that's where we start getting into trouble here. Okay, obviously, even Paul would be contradicting himself because he says, before you knew Messiah, you were Gentiles according to the what? Flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they were born ethnically pagans.
Right.
Okay, they're still ethnically pagans. Being a new creation Messiah doesn't change your genealogy.
Right.
Let's not get away with ourselves here. That I see certain camps try to twist that because they have a certain bias and they think you have to be ethnically Israel to be saved, but that's a whole nother ballgame, a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day.
Abraham was not that genetically changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Abraham was born a Chaldean.
Yeah.
As far as who he was a citizen of,
mm-hmm.
He was a citizen of Shinar, Chaldea. He was born a pagan and he crossed over spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So when it says he became a Hebrew, the Hebrew Abram, when he started being called a Hebrew, which just means to cross over,
mm-hmm.
okay, he spiritually crossed over. He didn't ethnically cross over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so the point I'm trying to make is that when it talks about no more Judean or Gentile, it's meaning there's no more distinction spiritually between the two.
Mm-hmm.
What Messiah did on the stake, he made the one new man, right? We hear this all the time growing up in Christianity, the one new man. Okay, the one new man means there's no more wall barrier between the ethnic Israelites and the ethnic Gentiles of the nations who were grafted into Israel, into Yasharal. So that's what Paul's talking about. Paul's not saying genetically that you're changed or that there's no more literally male and female and so on and so forth, because that would just make no sense whatsoever.
Right.
What he's talking about is spiritual. He's talking about that there's no more distinction spiritually. You're all one body spiritually. You're all one body of Messiah. So that's what he's saying. Which, if that's the case, then the same rules for natural Israel goes for the grafted in Israel, which we can even go to the Tanakh for that concept. We can go to Numbers 15, one law for the natural born and the sojourner among them. By the way, the phrase among them actually means you're part of them. So where you see it in the Bible, the stranger among you, it means they've already came into covenant with the Father. They're not like they're not still a pagan to be among Israel. Just wanted to kind of explain that. But anyway, good question, brother Joshua. That was a really good question, and that's really important to expound on, to explain what Galatians 3 in context is talking about. So that was verse 15. Verse 16 says honor, which, by the way, more accurately, you should probably say respect your father and your mother, because we have a wrong understanding of what honor means. Respect your father and mother as Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you, that it may be well with you and that you may live long upon the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. You shall not murder. And I think a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the context of that commandment. Later on in Deuteronomy, he talks about laying in wait to kill someone, to laying in wait to trap someone they've hated in their heart to kill them. Okay, so that's what it means by you shall not murder. Okay. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Okay, again, your neighbor means your brother. In Messiah, that's what your neighbor is. Okay, everyone is not your neighbor. But I'm not advocating that it should be only for your neighbor. Just because it just says for your neighbor, that it doesn't mean for Gentiles. I would think you should be treating them the same way too, obviously. You shouldn't be murdering them for no reason or stealing from them. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, nor his field, nor his manservant, nor his maidservants, or his ox, or his donkey, or any beast of his, nor anything that is your neighbor's. Okay. Yeah, see, the Samaritan Pentateuch has an added paragraph there, which is kind of biased. If you do a little research, you'll find out that the Samaritans believe that Jerusalem didn't have to be the worship site, that they could go to Mount Gerizim. So that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So I kind of ignored that extra paragraph there that was there. But anyway, verse 22, these words Yahuwah spoke to all the assembly of you in the mountain out of the midst of fire. There was darkness, blackness, storm, a loud voice. And he added no more, and he wrote them on 2 tables of stone, and he gave them to me. And it came to pass when you heard the voice out of the midst of fire, for the mountain burned with fire, that you came to me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and you said, behold, Yahuwah our Elohim has shown us his esteem. We have heard his voice out of the midst of fire. This day we have seen that Elohim shall speak to man, and he shall live. Now let us not die, for this great fire will consume us. If we shall hear the voice of Yahuwah our Elohim anymore, and we shall die. For what flesh is there which has heard the voice of the living Elohim? Interesting. I'll definitely talk about that. Interesting. Let's see. So that's Deuteronomy. What is that? Deuteronomy 5:26. Okay, just to make a little note of that. Voice of the living Elohim, speaking out of the midst of fire, as we have heard and shall live. Do you draw near and hear all that Yahuwah, our Elohim, shall say? You shall speak to us all things whatsoever Yahuwah, our Elohim, shall speak to you, and we will, and we will hear and do. And Yahuwah heard the voice of your words as you spoke to me. And Yahuwah said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, even all things that you have said, they have said to you, they have well said, all that they have spoken. Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they should fear me and keep my commandments until Messiah dies on the stake? No, always. Always. FYI, basic English always means like forever, like doesn't change forever. Okay, so, and I mean, we can even go to Malachi after I finish this chapter here and show you that Yahuwah doesn't change. Okay, all right, what he says now is still applicable thousands of years later.
Mhm.
That it might be well with them and with their sons forever. Go say to them, return ye to your houses. But stand you here with me, and I will tell you all the commands and the ordinances and the right rules you shall teach them, and let them do so in the land which I give them for an inheritance. You shall take heed to do as Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. We spoke about that last week, about how many times Yahuwah says, do not turn to the right or to the left. According to all the way which Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you to walk in it, that he may give you rest. And this is probably what Hebrews chapter 4 is talking about. Remember how it says, Paul says in Hebrews 4, I think it's verses 8 all the way to the end, he says, let us strive, let us labor to enter into that rest. That's most likely what Paul's talking about is Deuteronomy 5:33 here. According to all the way which Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you to walk in it, that he may give you rest, and that it may be well with you, and you may prolong your days on the land which you shall inherit. Yep, go ahead, Brother Joshua.
I was going to say that Deuteronomy 5:29, where it says, oh, that there was such a heart in them that they should fear me and keep my commandments always, seems to be a foreshadowing of the new covenant, where he gives us new hearts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think of that. What mainly I thought of when I saw the word always, and I just maybe the new covenant didn't click in my head, but I was definitely thinking at the minimum Malachi 3:6, I do not change. I am Yahuwah, I do not change. So always is forever. He's not gonna change his standards because some Gentiles get grafted in and don't know his law. He's not going to give us a lower standard than his original people. Those of us that are ethnically wild branches. So, yeah, good one though, bro. Yeah. So what Brother Joshua is referring to in the new covenant would be Jeremiah 31 to 33, Ezekiel 36:26 to 27, Hebrews 8 even. Paul quotes both of those passages in Hebrews 8. Okay, so this is one fluid story here. So that's the end of chapter 5. We're going to take a short intermission. I just have to take a restroom break right now, so we'll be back soon. Stay tuned, everyone. We will be doing the part 2 of the Torah portion. The last chapter we have here is Deuteronomy 6. Stay tuned. There's some interesting stuff. So we'll be back very shortly. Shalom.
Yeah.